In today's video, we're going to go ahead and go over the actual official document with regards to um, situational awareness for the system operator. So I'm going to try to go line by line in order to try to explain as best as I can what it's trying to say, and hopefully do it in such a way so that you as the operator will be able to hopefully understand and make better sense of what NERC is trying to say in its official document. So right off the bat, talking about the preamble, it says, in the public interest for the North American Electric Reliability Corporation to develop guidelines that are useful for maintaining or enhancing the reliability of the bulk electric system. So in other words, what NERC is trying to say is that they believe that it is in the best interest of the public. Now, in this case, I believe what they're trying to say is the public is the people who are involved in a bulk electric system, people who actually spend their time dealing with the electrical system and the electrical grid as a whole. It could be in a variety different of positions, really doesn't matter. But overall, in general, those who have hands-on approach, I believe, in my opinion, that's where they're trying to direct this reliability standard. I mean, not standard, this reliability guideline for. So it says here the technical committees of NERC, the operating committee, the planning committee, and the critical infrastructure and protection committee, per their charters, are authorized by the NERC Board of Trustees Board to develop reliability and security guidelines. Now, these different committees, at the moment that this reliability guideline was written, these committees were still active. Since then, right now it's 2025, since then, these committees have been disbanded and or modified to be included in brand new committees that were established since then. But that's a talk for another day. It says here, the guidelines establish voluntary codes of practice for consideration and use by BES users, owners, and operators. So this, what NERC is trying to say is that they want to establish a standard of what they believe these different people, the BES users, owners, and operators, they would like to see utilized. They want to lay a standard to help them to work off of when dealing with the bulk electric system. And they're also saying that it's voluntary. In other words, they do not expect for people to be placed in a position where they are forcefully pushed to work on this document. In other words, they don't expect people to be to use this document as a quote unquote law, right? This is just strictly voluntary. And they want this to be considered by people who actually run the bulk electric system. It says here, they are developed by technical committees and include the collective experience, expertise, and judgment of the industry. Reliability guidance is not to be used to provide binding norms or create parameters by which compliance to standards is monitored or enforced. Once again, they are reiterating and they are stating the fact that this is not binding. This is not something that is legally going to cause people to, or force them to say, hey, you know what, we need you to show proof that you are doing this. You need to have something written in place to make sure that the operators follow this. They're not saying any of that. All they're saying is, look, we're wanting to put this guideline out there. We want you to read it, and we would like to see you try to apply it as best as possible. But there's nothing in place that is going to force you to implement this into your everyday practice. And this is not something that you are going to have to be abiding by as something as, the NERC standards do. While the incorporation and use of guideline practices is strictly voluntary, the review, revision, and development of a program using these practices is highly encouraged to promote and achieve the highest level of reliability for the BES. So again, this is strictly voluntary as they're saying, but they want people and operators and those personnel who have a direct impact to the bulk electric system to develop something and implement something on their own, utilizing what they're stating in this document, so that way they can the highest level of reliability for the bulk electric system. We believe that this document and this concept of situational awareness can help improve the reliability of the bulk electric system, and I believe that it to be the truth and that to be correct. So now, moving on to the purpose. So it says here, the objective of this reliability guideline is to provide information on situational awareness and its applicability to real-time operation in the bulk electric system. The purpose of what they're trying to say is they want to talk about situational awareness and how that applies to the bulk electric system. System operators must be on the same page when operating the bulk electric system, and that is true. One of the key things about making sure that the bulk electric system works is that the different operators, the different players, the different moving dynamic parts all move in unison. Just like generators, they're all interconnected and they're all moving at the same frequency, at the same inertia. In order to ensure that frequency remains stable in the system, the same thing has to apply to the operators and those who have a direct, hands-on approach to the system. They have to make sure that when they do things in coordination with others, so that whatever actions they take will not affect those around them. Everything has to be done in an ordered fashion and in a coordinated fashion to ensure that the arm doesn't operate without the coordination of the leg, and the leg does not work without the coordination of the torso, so that all parts of the system can walk and flow together properly. I know I'm saying some sort of weird analogy, but I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. All the moving different parts, they have different roles, different functions, they all have to move in unison together in order to ensure that everything flows and walks along properly. System operators must be on the same page when operating the BES, I just said. So the following questions may be asked. Number one, what is the current status of the system? What has been done so far? What are they doing now? How will that affect my tasks? How does what I'm doing affect them? And what will they do next? So right off the bat, NERC lays down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different questions. And in these questions, we have the first golden nugget that NERC lays out. Now, what do I mean by that? So whenever you are reading any sort of book, magazine, or watching a video, or anything along the lines that pertains to your field of, to the field that you are operating in, to the field that you are working and conducting a living in, anything that you read to improve your life. The concept is that whenever you read something, you're almost like digging for gold. You're looking for one little piece of nugget of information that will help to move and improve any aspect of your life in just a little bit better, right? So that the more books, magazines, articles, conferences, or whatever that you do to improve yourself, you grab small little bits of nuggets of information that help to move you along forward in a much better, in a much more efficient manner to help you achieve your goals. This right here is the first golden nugget from this reliability guideline that NERC puts out. Why? Because there are questions that apply to a system operator in helping them to develop situational awareness. But the problem that they're not saying here is that these questions mostly pertain to those who are coming into a situation after the fact. Okay, so let me break this down a little bit further, right? So typically when things occur on an operator's shift, right, things slowly happen and develop. Let's just say a storm is moving in, right? The operator who's sitting on the desk, they witness and they see the development of the storm. They can witness and see the development of the effects of the storm on their system, whether it be breaker operations, whether it's circuit blackouts, whether it be wires coming down, whether it's any issues and problems, both transmission-wise and distribution-wise. They can see it develop over time. And then as they're sitting through this whole process, they get a good feel of what's going on. But you also have situations where the operators come in either after, in the middle, and or after the fact, once the whole thing has already fully developed, And then they're caught in a situation where they need to catch up to what is happening. And these 6 questions that NERC lays down right here pertains more to that second type of operator, the operator that not necessarily sits from the very beginning and sees everything unfold and has a good understanding of exactly what's going on, but mostly applies to those who come in after the fact, who come in and need to figure out exactly what is going on. And these 6 questions help the operator to get to that point where they get a good understanding of what has occurred before, what is currently happening right now, what could happen in the future, and how their decisions and actions could affect anything going forward. So, the first question here, what is the current status of the system? This, right off the bat, is something that the operator, whenever they're coming into the shift, has to be made aware of, has to ask themselves, and has to be told what to do. Whether it's through a shift turnover, whether it's just sitting there watching and observing what the state of the system is doing. That has to be the key. They have to know what they're working with. Number 2, what has been done so far. So this is a breakdown of anything that has happened in the past. So the first question breaks down what is happening right now. What can I see in the system that I know for a fact, okay, this is off, this is wrong, needs to be changed, this needs to be improved, we need to restore this, we need to restore that. What visually can be seen right now? Plus the second question shows what has been done so far. How did we get to this point? Why is it that the system is in the state that it is right now? The full story. That is the second question. So you have current and you have past. So now, what are they doing now? The third question that goes into this is like, okay, who is involved in this? What are they doing? What is currently being fixed? Out of all the issues, I already have an understanding of what the issues is, how the system is laid out right now. I already know how we got to this point. Now, who is helping to make things better in order to resolve these issues that I currently have to deal with? That is the third question. So now, fourth, how will that affect my tasks? And I think the better question is, okay, what do I need to do now? And how can I help to make this situation better? I think that is the better question that this is trying to ask. So you've got current state, how we got to this point, who's actively working, and now what is my role? What can I do in order to help this process move along forward? What does what I'm doing affect them? And this is where it's trying to essentially say, how am I going to make the decisions to make things better, but what effect will this do to those people who are actively involved in making things better? Is it going to interfere? Is it going to make things better? How and in what manner can I do things so that way I don't affect, don't interrupt, don't slow down, and don't negatively impact those who are currently doing their job? And the last part, what will they do next? So in other words, in the future, what is the plan going forward? We know what they're doing now. What is the plan going forward to help get to a good final end result with the situation that we're currently working on? So this is a great list of questions right off the bat. Golden nugget that NERC lays out for system operators to get into the right frame of mind whenever they're stepping into something that has already developed, right? Because frankly, if the operator has been sitting on the desk, right, and sees everything fully developed, they don't need to ask these questions because they've already walked through the beginning of this process. From the moment let's just say an example, right? From the moment the storm starts, they saw exactly how things developed, who got involved, who started pinching in, who started jumping in there, helping, what locations, what are they doing, how many crews we got available. They saw all of this develop as the storm or situation unfolded. These set of questions are a good set of questions that an operator can ask whenever they're moving into the situation that has already developed and they don't have an understanding and they're just walking in brand new, fresh, not knowing what to expect. this is a good starting point. This is a good foundation for them to start asking these questions and saying, hey, okay, how can I get up to speed? And this set of questions help the operator do that. So now, organizations that have a process in place for assessing and increasing the effectiveness of the situational awareness of the operators, whatever the function, would likely provide their operators the best information and therefore improve their ability to make better informed decisions. So in other words, what NERC is trying to say is, look, if you want your operators to have better situational awareness, you have to make sure that they have good information and or the best possible information available for them to be able to do their job. So this concept is more like the more the operator has available to them as far as inputs of information that they can have according to the situation that they are encountering, the better and more informed decisions that the operator can make. At the very least, the operator can and should have the most essential and basic information available to make their decisions as reliable and as good as possible. But the more the information that the operator can be provided with, the better the decisions of the operator will make. So, this reliability guideline provides a global recognition of the importance of the system operator to maintain situational awareness while operating the bulk electric system. So, basically, NERC is saying, look, you have to have and maintain situational awareness while operating the bulk electric system. You can't just operate the system with blinders on. You have to know not only of what you're doing, and you have to be made aware of what's going on within your own system, but you also have to have a big picture overview of everything else around you as a system operator. You can't just be walking around doing your job with blinders on. You have to be educated on a bigger scale. It is meant to assist transmission operators, balancing authorities, reliability coordinators, general operators, and other operating entities to use as they deem appropriate with the primary goal of supporting the bulk electric system. So basically, NERC is saying, look, we're putting this out. It is up to you as the organization, regardless of what function you operate in, it is up to you to utilize this according to your needs. So then now, the next part. Says here, the bulk electric system, this is now talking about situational awareness. The bulk electric system operates in a dynamic environment and its physical properties are constantly changing. Situational awareness is necessary to maintain reliability, anticipate events, and respond appropriately when or before they occur. The guideline approaches situational awareness in three levels: perception, comprehension, and projection. So essentially what they did, NERC, they grabbed this document from Micah Ensley, the chunks, the nuggets, again, of this document that Micah Ensley created, talking about situational awareness, and then they just copied and pasted those nuggets of information, what they consider to be the most important summaries of the most important points of her document. They put it in here, so that way you don't have to go out there and purchase this paper that she created and then sit through there and read through, I think it was 15-20 pages or so of this scientific, very detailed document that she did. She did an incredible job on this. So NERC is saving you some time, and basically what they're doing is laying down the foundation of what Micah Ensley said that pertains to situational awareness. So first one, level 1, perception. First step in achieving situational awareness is to perceive the status, attributes, and dynamics of relevant elements in the environment. So what does this mean? Perception. You have to have your inputs, you have to know what you're working with, you have to know what information you're going to get, and then you have to recognize that that is important information for the situation at hand, right? So NERC afterwards then provides a brief summary of what it says, and it says the system operator needs to accurately perceive relevant information of bulk electric system, procedures, resources, clearances, alarms, and tool status, as well as weather, emergency information, and other pertinent elements. So in other words, NERC is trying to say, hey, Same thing as I was saying in the other video. You've got inputs coming into you. You have to be made aware of these inputs. You have to have the ability to multitask, to be able to receive these inputs, to be able to understand and get a feel for what's going on. So now, if you take a look at a statement that NERC just stated, it says, the system operator needs to accurately perceive relevant information about the volumetric system. Example given: procedures, resources, clearances, alarms, and tool status. What is all of this? If you really break it down, it all pertains back to the operator pyramid. There are 4 distinct levels of the operator pyramid. That is what NERC is essentially stating. This is what you're going to need as a way to figure out your inputs coming in. So you grab that operator pyramid, the 4 distinct levels. You've got the procedures, you've got the base foundation of theory, electrical theory. Then above that you got your level of procedures. Then above that you've got your actual system, and then above that you've got your external factors. So if you really take a look, procedures right there, the second tier. Resources right there, that is your system. Clearances, system. Alarms, system. Tool status, system. As well as weather, there it is, top tier. External factors. Emergency information, that is going to be your external and other pertinent elements. External factors. So they're using essentially the same basic concepts of the electrical pyramid, the 4 tiers, and they're using that as a way to tell you, hey, look, use those 4 level of types of information, and you can use that as input to figure out exactly what's going on. Comprehension. Level 2, comprehension. Comprehension of the situation is based on the synthesis of perceived information. Comprehension goes beyond simply being aware of perceiving information that is presented to include an understanding of the significance of those elements. In other words, again, once you have your inputs, once you understand what's coming into you, once you perceive that is important to the situation, and that is useful information that you can use to understand what's going on, now you have to put the pieces together, put the big picture together, and understand and get a good feel for what's going on. And of course, projection. Projecting is the ability to anticipate future conditions based on the perception and comprehension of information, at least in the near term, in order to make informed decisions. Now, in the previous video, I utilized the operator pyramid for the operator to then grab that information from the operator pyramid and start using it for their comprehension to try to figure out what could happen and what should happen. Based on drawing information from that pyramid to make their informed decisions. So now, they go on and they state that together the 3 levels of situational awareness help operators understand the current state of their environment and adapt their behavior as necessary to make effective and efficient decisions. In the best of situations, the following occurs. So, the second golden nugget that NERC places within the situation we're talking about is having some sort of metric that the operators can use to figure out, hey, wait a minute, did we use situational awareness correctly? Right? So one thing is to talk about situational awareness. Another thing is to actually implement it. And another thing is to actually measure and try to figure out, okay, did it work or not? Are we using situational awareness correctly or not? How do we measure that? And this is where NERC provides their second golden nugget of this document, because they lay down 6 different criteria that companies can utilize, or operators themselves can take a step back and try to figure out, hey, wait a minute. They can take a look and say, hey, you know what? Did I use situational awareness? Did it help me? Yes or no? Is what we're doing set up properly and correctly? And these are the following conditions. This is the metric that NERC has poured out that operators and companies can use. Number one, the condition is quickly identified. And they put the word quickly on there in order to state that to properly identify the state of condition, the time frame has to be adequate enough to effectively find a solution in an efficient manner. In other words, it doesn't help to finally understand and be able to put the pieces of the puzzle together at a time much later after the fact, when you needed to make your decisions right there, right now, in a more efficient and quicker manner. So what they're saying is, if you are able to put the pieces of the puzzle together quickly, in a shortened time frame, that means that whatever you are doing to analyze and assess the situation is working. So the longer it takes for you to finally get a good feel of what's going on, the less efficient your process is. The less time it takes for you to understand what's going on, the more efficient and the better your process is working. Number two, the impact to operations is understood. So not only do you have to understand what's going on, but you also have to understand how you are going to be impacting not only what's currently happening, but also what's going to happen to the bulk electric system, to the current processes that are in place, and to the current decisions that have already been made. You have to understand how you will have a direct impact to those around you. Number three, relevant data to address the issue is easily available and thoroughly reviewed. If you have a hard time finding information, then the process that you are utilizing to develop situational awareness is not effective. The easier, the more direct, the clearer the information that you have at hand, the easier it is for you to find the information that you need to find whenever you need it, the better the process that you have in place is. If you have a hard time, and if it takes you such a longer time to get the information that you need, then that is a clear indication that you need to do something to improve that process. Number four, corrective action recommendations take into account possible negative impacts of the BES. So if you are starting to make a decision, it ties back into number two, the impact of operations is understood. So now when you're making your decisions, you have to understand, will it cause a negative impact? Will it cause something negative to occur? You have to know the risks associated with what you are doing. Not only the impacts, not only the concept of for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. That is essentially what it's trying to tell you. You have to know what could possibly go wrong in the case that you do make your decision. Number five, corrective action can be implemented quickly with available resources. You have to have the tools, you have to have the information, and you have to have the knowledge available to make your decisions quickly. If you can't, if there's a process in place that is slowing down this decision making, if you have to rely on somebody else to go forward with your action, if there's some sort of bottleneck preventing you from quickly acting to correct something wrong in the system, that is something that needs to be taken a look at, something that needs to be addressed, and something that needs to be corrected to ensure that there is nothing holding the operator back from doing what they have to do and to ensure the reliability of the system. And finally, number six, information is captured and used to mitigate potential future problems. In other words, I believe this is more like a lesson learned or an after action review type of process where as soon as things happen, right, after the fact, you have a way to record the decisions that were made, to record the actions that were taken, to ensure that when you go back and take a look at what was done, you can then assess whether those decisions were done right, those decisions were done wrong, and what could be done better should that situation and this problem arise again. So now, BES system operator roles. So going forward, what NERC eventually started doing, right? They started laying down the different responsibilities of the different roles involved in the NERC umbrella of operations mostly in North America. And they broke down the roles and the responsibilities of each of these entities, whether it is a reliability coordinator, balancing authority, transmission operator, generator operator, and generator operator. The 4 essential functions involved in operating the electrical grid in North America. Now what they did essentially was grab the basic fundamental duties and functions of what they do in their job, but mostly associated with NERC standards. So if you go, for example, I'm just going to quickly pull up transmission operator. The first bullet point, it says here, monitor the current status, open and close, and real reactive power flows in the BES tie lines and transmission facilities within the TOPS area. That right there is a NERC standard, VAR 00001, right? Stating, and all they're doing is basically just grabbing the NERC standards and how they each apply to the different rules within North American electric grid. I'm not going to go through all of them, but essentially, in my opinion, maybe not necessary for the topic that we're talking about, situational awareness. So that is essentially the reliability guideline the NERC put out, which I believe has the 2 major golden nuggets that the operators can utilize to help them improve situational awareness. The first golden nugget was the 6 questions that the operator can ask when they're coming into a situation for the first time and they don't know what's going on. They can bring themselves up to good speed using those questions. And the second nugget is having a good metric and assessment of whether the process that they put in place for situational awareness is actually working or not.